Hey y'all. The man with the goodies is here. I got stuff you might want. Stuff that makes you feel real good. I got t-shirts. I got buttons. So you know what I can do for you? Every time you buy something, I'll send you a fan club membership card. So if you buy a patch, I'll send you a fan club membership card. If you buy an autographed picture with your name on it, and I've got your name, I'll send you a fan club membership card. And you can give that one to a friend. Remember, any friend of a midnighter has got one friend.
Go to the OSI 74 shop to buy your Midnight Frights merchandise.
This space for rent. This signal space to your ears for rent. This space between your ears for rent.
Do you have a product, service, website, company? Propose, perhaps? No, we don't want to do that, right?
If you can't propose?
Well, I mean, if you really wanted to propose...
It would be encased forever.
Johnny says, will you marry me, Susie? We could do that.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Why not?
Yeah.
If you have a product or service or whatever to promote, people, especially that you want to promote to our listeners, why not become a sponsor?
A sponsor, you say?
Yeah, a sponsor of this program. Contact Mr. Lobo at his personal email. I'm giving this out right now just for you. Okay,
right.
Don't tell anyone. All right?
Whisper it.
Mr. Lobo, that's MRLOBO, at cinemainsomnia.com. CINEMAINSOMNIA.com.
That sounds so sexy.
Yes. Mr. Lobo at cinemainsomnia.com. Contact me and we will get you on the air. We will talk about your stuff.
Your stuff. I believe this is the point where we start the program.
Oh, that's right. So
what
why
do we
don't
say?
we get this program started? All systems go.
Attention Sleepless Knights. Thank you for consuming this OSI 74 product broadcast, live from the Black Knight satellite. For optimum performance and safety, your host, Mr. Lobo, asks that you please listen to these instructions carefully. When in a hospital or other healthcare facility, observe the restrictions on the use of electronic devices. Switch off before boarding an aircraft to prevent interference with communications systems. Do not operate this device in the presence of flammable gases or fumes, chemical plants, or where blasting operations are in progress. Always listen hands-free while driving a vehicle. Failure to observe these instructions may lead to immediate termination. It's time now for the show to begin. Thank you. Have a very pleasant evening.
You're not dreaming. You're listening to the Sleepless Nights podcast. This is your host, Mr. Lobo, and across from me is Paul Sanders of BESTOW TV.
That's me.
And this is week 4 of the Sleepless Nights podcast.
You made it pretty far, folks.
I know. Boy, they have like nerves of steel. I don't know how they can put up with us for this long.
Hey, I got a question for you. I know we didn't hit this topic yet, and I know we're long past it, but I'm not sure what the Lobo celebrated, whether it's Hanukkah or Christmas or Life Day or whatever.
Life Day. Yes, definitely Life Day.
What kind of gifts did Krampus bring you?
Well,
I guess Krampus doesn't bring gifts.
Grandpa Krampus brought me a few things. I actually got some really neat gifts. I got a book about carpeting, what you should know about carpet. I had this book from the 70s, and it had all these pictures of people with like turtlenecks in these giant rooms with shag carpeting going up the walls, and in the bathroom, like you really want shag carpet. There's like a grocery store with carpeting in it. You know, it's just like this world that never existed. And I got this book from the 70s, and it got water damaged and destroyed, and it was so full of unintentionally funny imagery that I missed it a great deal. And someone replaced that book.
It sounds like a lot of it was lifted and put in the OSI brochure. Yeah. Guy with a turtleneck and carpeted walls. That kind of that stuff looks familiar.
I've built my whole life around that imaginary mod lifestyle that never really existed. But it was cool to replace that book. And what did you get, Paul?
I got brand new pair of pants, and if you look on that chair over there, they're slung right over the back. Don't they look great?
wow. Yeah, there they are, way over there. Those look like some nice pants,
Yeah,
Paul.
that's great. Yeah, now if I'd ever wear them,
Yeah,
they
I
would
wish
be
you-
awesome.
I wish you would. I
So
just
would-
wish to God you just put them on.
I hear that from a lot of people.
All right. Well, and one other thing we got is a from the same person, a DV deck, which means nothing to most people. But before computers, they put video on tape. And when Mr. Lobo was on TV on PBS in KTEH on San Francisco Bay Area, they had a bunch of my shows on DV cam tape, which is a format, a professional format of video, and it's just a big block. I have a big box of rectangles that I couldn't play any of the content on.
Black rectangles with
Yeah.
yellow
Yeah,
lids.
And there was no way I could use any of that content. And there were several lost episodes or episodes that I don't have any other copies of that were kind of on those tapes. So thanks to our friends Laura and Jeff, we have a machine now that can play those tapes. And this machine also will play the mini DV tapes. And a lot of the video that we shot, like I would say, the second and third and fourth season of Cinema Insomnia, they were all shot on these little mini DV tapes.
And it's funny, is mini DV. I was shooting mini DV 5 years ago for the YouTube channel. So mini DVs used to be a thing until everything was streaming and up on the computer and making files.
I remember my camera had a slot for SD card, and I'm like, who would ever use an SD card?
What the hell's an SD card?
When you've
What does
got
that
a
mean?
tape, And so we asked the fans for the adapter to play the little tapes, the mini DVs, and man, the fans just came through with sending us an adapter so we can play those little tapes too that used to be on our cameras.
So I guess there's going to be new old content?
New old content on OSI 74
presented by a guy in a turtleneck in a room full of carpet.
Yes, that's the new
Check
look.
it out soon,
That's the new
folks.
set we're building here for Cinema Insomnia. It's all carpeting, all shag carpeting going up the wall. But we really have the most amazing fans in the world. We're sort of setting up our camp here, right? This is Lobo Camp.
Yeah. Well, before we get into Lobo Camp, I wanted to tell you about
Camp Lobo, I should say.
Yeah, we had gotten all those nice reviews and everything. Everybody was saying nice things about listening to the podcast. This was kind of new for both you and I.
Oh yeah,
And,
I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves because this is the first
Stay on script.
podcast we've done.
Stay on script.
All right,
Isn't
we
that-
don't
is it
have a
stay
script.
on
This is
script?
all off the cuff.
I'm
completely off the
quoting
cuff.
Star Wars. Isn't that what he says?
Stay on script.
Stay on script.
I think that's what George is saying.
Oh wait, stay on target.
Yeah.
Oh, I got my bad.
So we've been doing this podcast. This is the fourth week of this podcast. And over the first 3 weeks, we got some feedback over the episodes that we had made. And we are going to follow some of your suggestions. Most people wanted more of the podcast. They felt that the half hour was too short. So because of your suggestions, we are adding another segment. We're padding it out a little bit more, make it a full hour.
Poor people. I mean, I don't even understand how. I got a lot of decent reviews about myself. I got a lot of good reviews about myself. Where I listen to the podcast and I think that I sound like I gargled with razor blades and tequila. But
You do stammer a lot. I know you always say you stutter, but you really
stutter?
don't stutter. You stammer.
stammer.
We both stammer. This is like a stammer-a-thon, stammer jam.
It'd be all right if we were singing this in a studio, right?
Yeah, but don't. We don't do Phil Collins
Okay.
in here.
It's
No,
copyright.
No Star
Hashtag
Wars.
not
no,
sponsored.
No Phil Collins.
But I guess that I've also led an uprising of a pantsless sect on my own. According to, was it horrornews.net? I believe was the guy that wrote the article and was saying about down with the pants.
I don't know if he wrote the article.
Tyranny.
Well, maybe he did. I
think that's where it was posted, wasn't it?
Well, I think there were a couple people who were like, "Paul's right on. I'm not wearing pants ever." so you're starting a cult of people who don't want to wear their pants anymore. You're going to bring down society with this chaos that you've introduced.
Listen
to the
next
world.
week when we have a spin-off podcast called the Pantsless Producer.
That's right. Well,
Oh,
in the first episode, you said you were looking to see if that pantslessproducer.com actually existed as a website.
And it does now. Because guess who owns it?
Yeah, you smart man, you bought that pantslessproducer.com
I beat Bill Gates
domain.
to it.
Yeah. I'm glad you squatted on that.
Gross.
So without your pants even. Oh God. So that pantslessproducer.com, if you go there, you will find a link to the latest podcast.
I'm gonna put the links to the podcast until we start working up a Sleepless Night website. But
and a manifesto about not wearing
yeah,
pants.
I think we'll do a manifesto of not wearing pants, and I'll include a lot of maybe I'll backlink Mr. Lobo does all the projects that you and I pretty much work together. You can probably pretty much find, and I'd like to cross-reference too. If we mention something on the podcast, maybe there's a link to something we talked about, like Traumator or something.
Yeah, so because of you, we got some great feedback. We weren't quite sure what you were going to think about this podcast. You like our banter, and we appreciate that. And you like the fact that Paul doesn't wear pants, which I don't understand. It's disgusting to be here in person, but if you're okay with that, if you think that that's something that
Be one without the pants.
God, be one without the pants? That doesn't even make any sense, does it?
I don't know. I was quoting Obi-Wan Kenobi. Luke, use the pantsless. No, still dumb.
It's still, yes. You'll have to work on that shtick.
Shtick.
So anyhow, so we have the DV player here, and we're setting up. This is our basically setting up here Camp Lobo. We're going to be making Cinema Insomnia episodes, and it is not easy producing.
Being green?
It's certainly not easy being green, but it's not easy producing independent video, independent television, independent movies, and it's certainly a pain in the ass. Excuse me. We decided we weren't going to say ass.
Can't say ass.
Right. So we'll strike
You
that.
can say
from the
bung.
record. I'm not going to say that either. But we're going to talk a little bit about in this podcast today. We're going to be talking about being a producer and distributing your own work. Right?
I thought that was the next episode.
Is that the next one? Am I looking at the wrong thing? Oh yeah, you're right. That is the next episode.
So, folks, tune in next week.
Next week, when the topic is going to be talking about self-producing and self-distributing.
This one's going to be more in the same vein, but it's going to be more about YouTube and
rights
life
issues,
on YouTube,
rights
and
issues,
how it deals
and-
with the independent person as well.
Yeah. So please stay with us. God help us. We're going to try to get things back on track.
I'm going to show off my pants because I was just going to.
Yeah, why
I think I'm going to get Vanna White to come in here.
Why don't you model those pants? I want to see you in those pants right now. So Paul's going to put on some pants.
No,
I'm going to get a hot cup of tea, and we will be back with more of the Sleepless Nights of Insomnia.
Combine the Dirty Dozen with the Magnificent Seven, and you have the Chinese Professionals. 9 masters of the martial arts who rip the screen apart. The Kung Fu Beast. The Fighting Siamese Devils. The Tibetan Tiger Men. Karate Killers. The Judo King. The Invincible Yuga Khan. And the incredible one-armed boxer. China's answer to the Dirty Dozen and the Magnificent Seven is the Chinese Professionals from National General Pictures. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
All right, we're back. During the break, we were discussing whether we should just strike that first part of the show off and do it again.
Well, we can put it on the internet, and they could petition to have it removed from their memories. Remember, we established that
take
already.
that out of the canon of this broadcast. No, I'm not used to this as far as just like rough and raw, doing it, without a net.
Gross.
Sloppy, clumsy, sloppy, rough and raw. We're not used to
Are
doing
we talking
it
about
like
the
this.
podcast or the fact that I'm not wearing pants again?
This is what you want to do, right? You want frank talk from a couple of real dudes, couple of real guys,
Well,
right?
we haven't found Frank yet.
Frank will be joining us, but we do have one additional person that we have added.
We forgot.
Yes. Well, we didn't forget. We were dramatic effect. We delayed it. We were pleasure
She
delayed.
yelled at us for this.
Is pleasant.
She gave us hell.
is pleasure enhanced. And so, you know, we are just a couple of dudes talking about regular guy kind of dude stuff.
Plus one
And
gal.
so we decided, yes, that we try to soften our image, make us a little bit more relatable by having the female touch, female presence here.
You all been waiting for it.
That's right. Now, if you
build it up.
I'm building it up. Now, many of you know her as my co-host on Cinema Insomnia. She has been with us from our first season. We hosted a movie called, I think Linda was the first movie that we hosted together. She was presented to me she was presented as a gift, actually, to the show. Her name is Miss Mittens, and she is a houseplant. So everyone, yes, big applause. We get a lot of mail for Miss Mittens. Yeah. We get a lot of, I mean, I think we were the first person, you know, we all talk about rights issues and people of different genders and different lifestyles and different colors, backgrounds, and creeds. I think our show was the first to have a plant and a major role on a show.
Captain Kangaroo, no plant.
Not really.
Mr. Rogers, no plant.
No, not really. Not really.
Insert other weird show here.
No plant. You know, I think that, you know, obviously there's things like Little Shop of Horrors and things like in Day of the Triffids, but those are all negative imagery. You know, I mean, the plants are kind of presented, sentient plants are kind of presented in a negative light. We don't like the idea of plants knowing what we're doing. Like The Happening, right? That's another one. So it's
I didn't Miss Mittens like The Happening.
I think she likes any movie in which humans are destroyed by plants.
Yeah, understandable.
But anyhow, so Miss Mittens will be chiming in. She'll be laughing at our jokes. You know, she'll be reeling us in if we get a little too
So Miss
gross.
Mittens, how do you feel about the show so far? Oh, wow. I don't know if can we say that on the air?
Well, see, girls can get away with that. I don't know. I feel like when
that's
we talk
one word
like
I
that,
wouldn't even say.
I know. When we talk like that, we get in trouble. But anyway, so we're really kind of in this position of making videos for you. The fans coming through. We talked a little bit about the fans coming through, and boy, lately you guys have been coming through for us a lot. We asked for 100. We needed 100.
100.
100. We needed 100 subscribers on our YouTube page. Now we've been posting videos on there,
and we were 2 off as of last night.
We were 2 off as of last night recording this podcast, and we put it out there and we said, hey, you know, we need 2 more subscribers to get 100 so we can secure our name.
And 20 additional subscribers later,
boom, goes the dynamite. So we now have an official name for our YouTube.
And how do we get there, Miss Mittens?
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Right.
So
maybe reiterate it for the
that's
folks.
right. Miss Mittens just said this is youtube.com/Mr. Lobo, MisterLobo, and it will be a part of the podcast. You'll hear it again at the end of this show. It will be part of the podcast. At the end, we have a new sort of what do you call it? End plate closer.
Yeah, we're moving. Yeah.
And it will, and all of our contact information will be repeated at the end of the program.
What's really nice about this and what's really special about it is that it's easier to find for a lot of people. And we're not, you know, we don't just put the podcast on there. We produce content strictly for that site as well. That you won't necessarily see on OSI, or maybe we'll pull bits of it. Or
right, because Mr. Lobo, the caramel Pepsi.
Pepsi review.
Now, it was one time with one of our fans brought us Mr. Lobo a caramel, salted caramel Pepsi.
Correct.
Salted caramel Pepsi. And so they
Dixie
wanted to know.
wasn't it?
It was Dixie, Laura, and Jeff brought
Correct.
it. And
they wanted you to taste it.
They wanted me to taste it.
Wait, let's turn on the camera.
Yeah, and Paul rolled on it. And man, I think like it's got, I don't know, 250, 300 plays on it.
I think it's like one of our top views right now.
And you know, it's just me drinking a soda. and reviewing it. And then we have an unboxing. We have two.
Reboxing.
We have unboxing and reboxing, which I think we were the first to do a reboxing video.
I don't even think Reeboks does reboxing.
Reeboks doesn't even do reboxing. No, they're too busy making the sneakers and boxing them. They don't
I'm glad we spell it a little bit
rebox
differently so that we don't get sued.
Sued by Reebok.
Right.
But we have the reboxing, and we did quite well with those too. And really, they're fun for us to do, and we get so many nice reactions.
If I could take a little sidetrack here, was that the whole reboxing thing is that we do a bit called Mr. Lobo Does, which is on the BESTOW TV channel. Insert plug. But
maybe there should be a commercial for BESTOW
maybe
TV. I'll write it down somewhere.
Yeah,
I'll write a memo and
I'll pretend to be able to read your chicken scratch. But the reboxing idea was an idea for the Mr. Lobo Does. It was actually going to be a routine that was going to be pretty much a one-off. And most of our stuff is generally a one-off joke.
Right, because it's usually like our take on insert whatever subject.
Right. Halloween, lunch.
Right.
Monster Bash conventions.
Monster Bash convention, comic book day.
Fun stuff. Procrastination. My personal favorite.
Yeah, we will take on a topic and we do a kind the eclipse.
Right.
So we take on a topic and we kind of just explore it in a comedic way.
So what we generally do is the reboxing was going to go there.
Yeah, unboxing. It was going to go. Mr. Lobo Does unboxing originally.
Yeah, I think unboxing, and then it was going to be a video that had a split title. It would be unboxing, and then a little bit later we go reboxing, and then that was the joke. The joke was going to be hidden later in the
right, because we always thought it was so absurd that people watch videos of people taking things out of boxes. So I thought, well, why not go the other way where we put it all back in the box at the end,
and it goes to somebody else or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it came around that Mr. Lobo was getting mail. He was getting fan mail, and it was kind of like, well, hold on to that a second. Let's do this idea that we were going to do. I think we were just talking about starting up the Lobo channel, but not knowing what to do with it because of Mr. Lobo had some past issues with YouTube, which we'll cover in a little bit.
Yeah, I wish we had time to talk about what happened to Cinema Insomnia on YouTube years ago in 2009. Go ahead.
But we've had the channel open, just not knowing what to put on it, and I think that was the first thing on it was an unboxing. Where it's like, hey, I want to open that, and I'm like, well, let's take that idea of the Mr. Lobo Does and apply it, and it blew up to the point where you kept getting stuff specifically because every comment I read is like, every time you open the box, you got to rebox it to the degree of like, how far can we take this joke?
So we got, after our first unboxing, I think we got 4 or 5 packages in the mail from people who just want to see Mr. Lobo unbox things. And I think it's funny too, because usually, obviously the character Mr. Lobo doesn't really understand how an unboxing video works, because the video of the unboxing is really not about the person unboxing the video. It's usually an overhead shot of the item, and it's usually like it's this new phone, or it's this new hot thing that maybe you might want to buy for yourself, and you want to go through the steps of, when I get this thing, what am I going to get, and what features does it have?
And I get to play.
It's usually not a surprise what's in the box. The idea of the fact that you're doing an unboxing in which you don't know what the item is really not how they're really done.
And I get to play a role in this because those people usually are doing it with their cell phones or the web camera. I get to play the web camera, and I get to we're shooting it on a little higher end camera than most people are. So I get to pretend to rack focus and put things out of focus,
right?
to make it look like how.
We watched a lot of unboxing videos, and there's always the moment in the unboxing video where they're trying to show it to the camera.
Do you see this? And they put it up closer to the lens,
and the camera is getting blurrier and blurrier, and they're trying to get you to see this thing in focus. And it's usually that was something we adopted from the real unboxing videos. The other thing was guys. It seems like that everything was guys. Hey guys. Hey guys.
Our rack focus, not to peel the curtain back too far, but that usually covers our edits too, because these things on YouTube generally aren't edited.
Yeah,
we do do a little bit.
We
of
do a
editing.
tiny bit of editing.
Not much. Not much in terms of these shows.
No, not really. Usually we try to get it all in one go, but sometimes we have to have a couple of places where we can stop and kind of
The camera
gather ourselves.
has a limit. The camera shuts off after so long, so we have to.
Yeah, that's true too. Because
that.
we have the Canon cameras.
T5i.
They only can run for like 15 minutes before they have to have a stop. So we kind of have to have a breaking point at 15 minutes, which is also funny that some of these videos are 30, 40 minutes long. And we've been so busy with other things that we haven't posted them all, but we have a lot of unboxing videos that we have been waiting to put up for you. But when we come back from the break, we want to talk about
I want to talk about an aspect of that from
YouTube,
and
right?
something that we stumbled across with your channel was the last podcast, the podcast that came out on the 8th.
Yeah, so we will be talking about that, but we've been posting our Sleepless Nights podcast video, the video version, the YouTube version up, and some curious things have been happening, and I think it's going to open up a discussion here for this next segment. So please stay with us for more of the Sleepless Nights of Insomnia. Visit our friends at horrornews.net, a popular horror genre site covering all aspects of the horror industry, plus paranormal, cult, fantasy, and extreme action. Great articles, interviews, trailers, and more. You can find it all at horrornews.net. That's horrornews.net. Do you want more misunderstood movies and madcap slumber party fun? Well, join us. Join our Supercore at patreon.com/cinema-insomnia. You can get exclusive perks and help us make this 16th season your favorite Cinema Insomnia season ever. Become one of our patrons. I think you're a patron at Patreon. Yeah, I believe that's how that goes.
Does Tron go to Patreon?
Oh, I hope so. I love Tron. Patreon.com/cinema-insomnia. Got myself a nice tall bottle of water here.
I got myself another margarita and some razor blades. So
You gotta. That's your trademark. Yeah, you gotta have that.
it burns.
Smooth. Yeah. So what happened? A curious thing happened. Paul started putting these Sleepless Nights podcasts up because we basically want you to be able to get them anywhere.
We want to cover all bases. It's on iTunes. It is on
Google
Music.
Mm-hmm. Our Patreon supporters get to hear it first.
Correct.
On the Patreon.
Nice plug. Mm-hmm. And RSS crawlers, they get to pull it from those sources, so you get to find them in other spots. But we didn't want to.
Horrornews.net has been spreading it around too for us too.
Nice. Mm-hmm. But we didn't want to limit what goes on YouTube too. Now, this is an audio thing. We're not really shooting video, so we have like little plates and stuff on there and everything. But it's generally. I assume that a lot of people actually listen to it on YouTube more so than all the other sites. It's kind of weird.
It definitely. Oh, it's on Vimeo too.
Oh yeah, it's on OSI.
And OSI. Yeah, so you can actually hear. We actually should have the second and the third episode. I don't think we have the second or the third one up on OSI.
Okay. Well, we'll get on that.
Fourth one, all of them. So we'll try to get more of the podcasts up on the. We may have to create an audio category on the Roku. Anyway, but
pODDcast.
On our pODDcast. So Roku. YouTube. So on YouTube, if you listen to it on YouTube, so we thought, okay, well, let's
there's
upload
video
it on here,
accompaniment,
but
really
it's all audio and it's all original. So why not just throw it up on YouTube?
It's everything you hear wherever you're listening to it now.
Yeah,
and it was odd enough that out of all of them, number 3 got flagged by YouTube. Now,
which is surprising to me because years ago I had all of the Cinema Insomnia episodes on not all of them, but we had like maybe 40 episodes of Cinema Insomnia on YouTube. And in those days, it took forever to upload 2-hour programs to YouTube, and we had erroneous copyright claims to the point of. We got a third strike, even though YouTube said with our first 2, hey, we understand that these are erroneous claims. These are public domain films and public domain commercials. But we've got some people who think they own the rights to those things. And until we hear their side of it, you're going to have these 2 strikes.
And there's some things that I've noticed, oddities, where things that are public domain have no longer become public domain. Like I'm under the understanding like the original Dracula came back from not being public domain to being owned by Universal or whomever. And Metropolis is another one that to my understanding has come out of public domain. But this is not the issue.
So what has happened was we in those days anyway. I got 3 strikes and my whole Cinema Insomnia channel went poof. I couldn't even log in anymore. It was gone. So I've been very shy about YouTube. And then Paul started putting up videos. And again, this original content and then our podcast. And then we get a flag, right?
And the thing with our YouTube channels is it's not monetized. We have not turned monetization on.
I've never monetized anything I've put on YouTube.
We're not collecting ad revenue from YouTube. And it's kind of weird because I kind of come across this on my own channel where, now my channel is monetized.
BESTOW TV.
BESTOW TV, youtube.com/BESTOW TV. It is monetized, but I get erroneous claims all the time. And
it's brutal. It's always like the music, which you've got like.
I pay the rights for.
You got music that you've paid the rights for, and then it's all shot by you.
I pay the rights. I shoot everything, and what happens is the company that I buy the rights for, before talking about the DV deck and everything else. For them, in order to get their music, you bought CDs, you bought physical media. Now they don't do that. It's all, you buy it online, you download what you need. And during the time when they had physical media, people bought the CDs, uploaded it to YouTube, and then put a claim on it. And it's to the point that there's this one particular person that they fight with all the time that they claim that work is theirs, and they can prove, was it BMI is who you register your music with?
Right.
Like they'll send me like that little BMI card that has the registration stuff. They can prove it that it doesn't belong to them, but it always falls on deaf ears. Eventually they let go of the music and whatnot, but they have no rights to claim it to begin with.
So anyhow, we uploaded the 3rd podcast, Sleepless Nights podcast. Oddcast. And ding, ding, we get flagged.
Correct.
And which is bizarre because, we have Mars's music, which we have permission to use. It's just you and I talking. What could they possibly have issue with in that whole episode?
Fans of the show who've listened to the long-standing past
the Star Wars disco, right?
You'd think that, wouldn't it? Our Star Wars holiday,
the Star Wars holiday music.
Well, that was the episode before. The holiday didn't get nailed. The disco
so we
music,
had freaking Star Wars stuff in there, and that didn't get flagged.
No. The longstanding fans who've been listening to this all 3 episodes probably know that one of our breaks, and soon I guess now this issue will have 2 breaks that feature retro
radio
trailers.
spots. To be honest, I could just listen to an hour of retro radio spots.
They're fun.
Paul is always like, well, we'll just drop one here and there, but I love them, and I have a bunch of them. And so we've been playing those retro radio spots, and we have one. Who's gonna reveal it? Who's doing the reveal here? Are you revealing it?
It's Astro Zombies.
It's the Astro Zombies.
Yeah.
The Astro Zombies in color. Astro Zombies that kill. So we had that trailer in there, and which is public domain.
Right.
Things that were created in advertising, especially pre-1978, are generally public domain. Usually the case is that people who have promotional materials and advertising, they want that stuff to be everywhere. Because
they want it out there because it generates traffic for them anyway.
It's promoting their product.
And we're not poo-pooing on it or anything anyway, but generally most places don't really care. Even if you are airing it and kind of making fun of it, you're still kind of advertising.
You're still advertising
to a degree.
So old commercials are public. In this particular old commercial is public domain. Old radio commercial. It's ephemera, and on top of that, not that it matters, but Mr. Lobo was the unit director on the 3rd Astro Zombies movie. And Ted V. Michaels, who created the Astro Zombies, he and I were friends. We've been to his home. We've eaten together. We have, have a friendship. Dixie loves Ted. Dick loved Ted. He passed away, unfortunately. But Ted said, you can use any of my trailers, any of my commercials, anything, any of my promotional materials for the movies that I've made. You're welcome to use in your program. So I have verbal permission,
But
even though
this is the digital age and verbal doesn't count.
No, but even though I don't need it, even though no one needs permission to use something that's in the public domain, I kind of feel like I have a little stake in it. I have a little more than most. And who's this guy who says that we can't use it?
Right. I don't even remember, or I haven't even looked it up. I mean, we threw around whether we're going to re-edit it, drop the commercial out because we're down to 0 hour where we should be launching the thing or whatever, and it's just like, just let them have it.
But we're not monetizing it. So how does he? Did he turn did they turn the monetization back on? I mean, how does that work?
What happens with YouTube is like, well, you understand that there's still commercials that play on your stuff, whether you monetize it or not. Where does that money go? Well, it goes to YouTube. And what generally happens is that this company will turn on that they will make a claim on this, and whatever ads run on it, even though we're not collecting anything on it, they get to collect on our backs anyway. Oh. If we're collecting 0, they should be collecting 0. What's 100% of 0?
Yeah, that's not fair. It's like, and the fact that like that part of the podcast is totally pODDcast is erroneous and not really like an important part of our podcast. We're certainly not selling it on the fact that we've got one public domain trailer in it.
Right.
So it's really frustrating to me that someone who some squatter who's going to say, I own the rights to this and I get to keep all the money that's generated from this thing that you did.
Right. I mean, we're only selling ad space. That's what keeps the show on the thing. It's not the monetization. And for somebody to just kind of slink in and say, well, I'm going to collect on this anyway, even though you guys don't want to, I do. And it boils down into a whole other subsect. I know we're getting close to our time limit, but there was an article that was sent to me. I'm gonna name drop here. Donna Renee sent me an email.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for those who in the cosplay community, you may have seen her on America's Got Talent as retired Wonder Woman. But anyway,
funny.
I just
Hilarious.
nice little plug there for Donna. Mm-hmm. Enjoy it, Donna. She sent me this article where this site got 5 copyright claims on one single video, and they were generating white noise, I believe is what the article was.
It was like static from from an old TV.
Yeah. Do not adjust your sets. We control the horizontal. We control the vertical. Anyway, it was basically that the 5 different people, I don't know if 5 people are the same person, made 5 claims on white noise. It's like, how white noise isn't even copywriting. And was it the other one's
you
pink
can't
noise?
Trademark, white noise or pink noise. Yeah, an audio engineer will tell you the difference.
Right. Yeah. So, but somehow they managed not only to do that on all those things, on all those levels 5 times, but they also, he released his own personal music.
Miss Mittens actually has Awkward Silence copyrighted.
Oh, yeah?
See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's another strike against us right now.
So she's going to be monetizing this podcast now.
Maybe we'll let that go.
Yeah.
We'll just let that slide.
I guess we'll let her have it.
All right. That and some fertilizer.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But he created his own music from scratch, and somebody monetized it.
I have so many musicians. Mars, who did the music for the Sleepless Nights podcast. pODDcast. The Sleepless Nights podcast. He made, the music that you're going to be hearing going out into the commercial. He made that. He made all sorts of music. He gets copyright strikes on his own music all the time.
And I don't understand how it does. I'll talk about this when we come out of break, but I don't understand how this can happen on totally original music to begin with.
It's a sick, sad world, Paul, and I guess we're going to try to sort it out after this break. Cinema, insomnia. Oh, excuse me. Boy, I just blanked out.
Wow.
Sleepless Nights podcast will be back right after this.
Warning, Godzilla vs. the Thing, a shattering motion picture not for the weak of heart. Here in all its astounding realism is a soul-shocking experience. How much terror can you stand?
What was this thing of unbelievable and unequaled terror that challenged Godzilla to a battle of unhuman strength versus supernatural evil? Godzilla versus the Thing. See the war of the giants. See the birth of the world's most terrifying monster. See armies of the world destroyed by the Thing. The producers of Godzilla vs. the Thing issue warning to those who cannot take its full horror. To you with guts, you must see Godzilla vs. the Thing from the beginning in color scope from American International.
Oh yes, indeed. We are back with this. If we're still on, if this video or podcast hasn't been pulled,
might have been flagged and stuff like that.
Yeah. So how does this happen, Paul? Where somebody's original work can be flagged as being someone else's work on YouTube?
I don't understand how an original piece of work can get flagged, but I understand how the something that's already made gets flagged. And I mean, there's not somebody on the other side watching this stuff and pushing a button. They're going through it, and it's all digital. They're comparing waveforms. They're comparing pixel to pixel and stuff like that. And YouTubers have figured a way of kind of going around that. Shrinking the image or
slowing it by 25%. You have drunk Jeff Goldblum. Maybe if you buy 3 pizzas. Right? You ever seen that video?
Maybe we should speak like this for the rest of it.
We could try to speak like this so that we don't get our own
Miss Mitten
voices.
Sounds funny like this. But I also know, I was also a part of an MCN, and I know, in the MCN.
And what is an MCN, Paul?
Multi-network channel.
Multi-network channel.
So they basically,
is that a YouTube term?
I believe so. Basically, you go to them and you pay them a percentage of your take, and they're supposed to help teach you.
And they're managing you.
They're managing you. But one of the aspects that I noticed. Now I'm no longer part of an MCN, but when I was a part of an MCN, there was a little tick box where if I were to upload a video, I could tick this box, and it would put it into whatever I guess what you call it, the YouTube content ID system, and it would, if anything like that showed up, it would get the copyright strike. It would get that we're going to hit you for this. But there's rules on it. There's a big paragraph underneath it goes you have to own 100% of everything that's in this video. You have to own the music. You have to own the thing. So it's for me I'm paying for the music. I'm paying for the rights to use the music. I can't claim this because YouTube will nail it, and then the MCN will get the claim for it based off of the music that nobody owns.
Wow.
We could end up in trouble. And I don't know if that's what's happening in the world. Is that what other people are doing?
Well, and there could be
they're
people
uploading a video and then they're ticking that little box so that they can get the rights to it. I mean, in that article they were throwing around was it the patent trolls or whatever that are kind of doing that.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much of that where you have people who will. I guess they're just taking everything that isn't nailed down and saying this is mine, and then when the person who finally owns that thing uploads it to YouTube, they get stopped because someone else had already got there first, right?
Right, and then you end up locked heads at it, I reached at one point with this music. I had actually reached out to YouTube. And I had just re-released a whole bunch of older episodes that are stitched together so that people who enjoy long-run videos, they can watch an entire season in one clip instead of finding each individual video. So I got nailed for all those songs that I already got nailed for once before, and it just kind of cheesed me off because it was like 5 claims across 2 videos. It was nuts. And I contacted YouTube, and I'm like, I want to know if there's a way where, as a YouTuber, I'm in trouble for everything I do, no matter what. I'm guilty until I'm proven innocent. Is there a way that I can turn in these people and saying, hey, they're claiming on these songs. They don't own the songs. I can prove that they don't own these songs. I can get the people that do own these songs on there. If we can prove that these guys are wrong, can we get them removed? And after a couple back and forth of emails, YouTube's like, no, we don't get involved with that. And it's like, you already get involved by having that to begin with, and you don't want to get involved by getting it removed. You know, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, they have everything to gain because they can just take anything away from anyone. They still benefit. And then they get to be on the high road of, whoa, we're protecting everyone's copyright, when really they're hurting the people who are the creators the most with these things.
I mean, with
the corporations and these like greedy squatters are the ones who are really benefiting, and the artists are getting slapped in the face every time.
The one guy that claims me that claims me all the time and doesn't have the rights to the song is that they're slowly becoming like the number one people that mainly they look for the music. So, you know, YouTube Music is one of the most popular ways of listening to online music.
Right.
Not to be redundant, but they're slowly becoming the number one company that monitors all that. And it's like, if you're the number one becoming the number one company and you've got false claims on there, that can't be right. And the fact that I've been involved in emails directly with them and the other guy. And the other guy comes up and say, hey, we own this. You know, you got to stop bullying this guy. You got to stop bullying Paul. We're going to send our lawyers after you, and we want these songs removed. And generally, it happens over and over and over again. They release the rights to me. They let me collect on it. And then they stop talking to the other third party. They won't get involved at all. And the third party tells me, he says, that's what happens every time we threaten with our lawyers. Then they just disappear. And they're like, you know, we have legal right. We can go after them with our lawyers. But we don't know who to go after either.
Right.
And when they go and they just disappear like this, they know that we're not that nothing's going to come about it. They're going to just constantly avoid us, and they know at some point in time, some idiot's not going to argue with them, and they're just going to pocket that money.
Yeah.
They're going to pocket it from something else, and it just drives me mad. Where it's like, you know, like use my cosplay montage series for example, cos-tunes plug. I should start saying hashtag plug.
Hashtag plug, not plug.
But you know, if I'm not compensated for a ticket, I have to buy a ticket. I have to get my travel there. I usually have to have parking. I have to, you know, I keep my gear in shape and always try to keep a new piece of equipment every year.
You're busting your ass at those conventions.
If I'm doing it at 3 days, I'm there all 3 days. You got to have a hotel. You've got to have food. You know, there's a lot that goes on with these shows. Then to come home, edit all this stuff, put it up on YouTube, and like somebody comes on and is like, "Well, thanks for all that work. I'm going to take 100% of this and put it in my pocket." I mean, where's the fairness of this? You know, it's like
There's no fairness. There's no fairness. I don't
charge anybody else for it. I just try to make money off the monetization. But it's like somebody's just there to just take that from me.
Well, and with Cinema Insomnia, there was never any monetization on the YouTube channel. Like I said, we had a trailer for House on Haunted Hill, I think was the first thing that got dinged, which again, House on Haunted Hill is already a public domain movie. And then it's a commercial for a public domain movie in your show. And then the second thing I think was old Tupperware commercial.
I think James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd, did a piece on House on Haunted Hill, and I think he got dinged on it too. Yeah. Just kind of bringing that back. Probably the same people.
The other one was a Tupperware commercial. It's an old Tupperware commercial, and the Tupperware commercial was on a record because it was public domain. Someone had lifted some of the audio from it and put it on an album. And because our thing matched the some of that album, we were getting a ding from that record company. So we had 2 dings on there. Now again, both of them were erroneous, and YouTube said, "Hey, you know, Mr. Lobo, you're in the right. You know, we looked at this, and you're not infringing on anyone. And as soon as we hear their side of the story, we'll lift that strike from you." Well, guess what?
Nobody's going to give that other side of the story, and you're counted wrong.
They don't have the time to watch. BMI or Universal doesn't have the time to watch a 2-hour program to see if a 30-second Tupperware commercial is infringing on them. So they just don't reply. They don't respond. Right. And then you get that third strike. And again, I couldn't even log in. I couldn't tell you what that third strike was. We had we had thousands. I think we had like something obscene, like 500 subscribers and 50,000 views or something.
And this was a while back because YouTube has since changed their policy where if you get a ding, it doesn't count as a strike against you if the guy on the other side says, hey, we'll just take the monetization from you. I mean, that's the trade-off. It's like, I could have strike after strike after strike on my channel, but instead they just decide to take the monetization. And it happens the same with, like, because I get promotional materials for like Dragon Ball Z and whatnot, and I've gotten things on there where it's like, you can use this is fine.
We just want the monetization. But what's frustrating with my program is that, I've come from a background of being on television. I imagine the show being available and free and in the air and for people to just enjoy. And however you get it, that's great. If you buy a DVD, hey, that's wonderful. If you just find it somewhere or catch it on your TV and you watch it, that's great. So where I'm not monetizing, and then to have, what damages can you prove? I'm not hurting you, we've got a program where we're making we have got our own work. And again, like what you do, you go to the convention and you shoot and you get a hotel. It's like, it takes a lot of resources and a lot of time. It takes me 2 days to write a show, and I have to watch that movie 5 times.
We have an entire camp called Camp Lobo for these reasons.
Paul is staying with us for a month. And we've got Aaron coming from California to stay with us for 2 weeks, and we're going to be setting up lights and cameras and microphones, and we're going to be editing for hours.
And then to deal with this noise from YouTube, that's why YouTube is not in the Cinema Insomnia equation.
No, not really, and on OSI 74, and hopefully Roku stays this way. But we're responsible for our own content, and I put up the fair use warning because I used to say this is public domain, this is public domain. Distributors and things don't want to hear that. They want to know who owns the rights. And so, usually now I just say I have cleared all necessary rights. I'm the content producer, and I have my fair use warning, because the things that I use in my program that do not belong to me, I am not trying to pass off as my own work. I'm not saying, look at this movie I made. Everyone knows that this is a movie that someone else created.
You mean you didn't make Rocky?
You
did make The Birds too.
I that's right. I did make Creeping Terror. No, I would have made a better movie if I had to make Creeping Terror. So, really, what people are watching when they watch the show, obviously they're if they want to watch if they have a criterion appreciation of these movies, they can go get that movie and buy that movie. The way the movie is presented on Cinema Insomnia is broken up with a lot of our original material. And, we feel like it's a transformative work. It's not the same as watching that movie. We're not hurting the business of that movie. And so, I don't feel we're infringing on the
you see the movie
original.
And then you get your entertainment with it. On top of it, what you provide. But if anybody wanted to watch that movie without that, they're not held back from that.
No.
I mean, same with, say, Mystery Science Theater 3000.
And I feel like with what Mystery Science Theater does is fair use, because it's satire, it's criticism, and it's a transformative work. It's a totally different experience. Hearing some songs on the radio is different than owning the album, or what I mean. And I feel like when you hear that song on my show, you might go buy that album. And I feel like that's good for, Mystery Science Theater raised the real estate of all those movies. A lot of those movies they originally had on there, they couldn't get today because now people like those movies or will pay money for those movies. There was no street value for those movies, which was why they were so accessible to them. And now, because Mystery Science Theater have boosted their real estate, those movies have value now.
That rose with them.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for listening to this. Is this our fourth segment or third?
This is our fourth segment.
So we're done?
We're done.
Wow, that went by fast.
It was a ride.
We're a little beaten up. I tell you, we went through hell yesterday building this studio. We have 3 computers dragged together into this room. Dixie is just held hostage here with us. We're frozen in. Luckily, Paul came in last night because we have freezing rain keeping us from going anywhere. And we've got Camp Lobo set up, and we're going to be talking about Camp Lobo next week.
If you heard as you heard in the first segment, unless you petitioned to have that removed.
Unless you struck it from the canon, unless you want it taken out of the canon of this podcast.
So if you didn't hear it in the first segment because of the petition,
we're going to tell you now.
You're going to hear it for the first time again.
And then next week, we'll do it for real. But we'll talk about Camp Lobo and producing a whole new season of Cinema Insomnia and hopefully breaking 1 million copyrights. Hopefully getting a fleet of angry lawyers ready to just send us cease and desist.
Oh, I don't think I could live through that.
Anyway, we want to thank you all. We certainly want to thank our Patreon supporters, especially for treating us so darn good. And please join us next week for more of the Sleepless Nights of Insomnia.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Sleepless Nights podcast, or should we say pODDcast?
PODDcast.
Emphasis on the odd. Our theme is by Mars Homeworld at Dead House Music. Our opening announcement is by Ophelia Necro. She does a radio show called Suicide Watch. And you could reach Mr. Lobo at cinemainsomnia.com or find me on YouTube, YouTube/Mr. Lobo, MISTERLOBO. Mr. Lobo on Facebook, Facebook/MR.LOBO, or on Twitter, at Mr. Lobo, MISTERLOBO.
Or you can find myself, Paul Sanders, or better known as BESTOW TV, at BESTOW.TV, on YouTube /BESTOW TV, on Twitter at BESTOWPROD, PROD, and on Facebook, BESTOW TV.
If you want to place an advertisement with this podcast, and gosh, why wouldn't you? We could be talking about you right now. Contact us, Mr. Lobo at cinemainsomnia.com. That's MRLOBO @CINEMAINSOMNIA.com. Or support us on Patreon. Patreon supporters get to hear this podcast before anyone else and a lot of other great stuff, right, Paul?
Sure.
Doesn't get it better than that, right? So come join the fun at patreons.com/cinema-insomnia. That's patreon.com/cinema-insomnia. Please stay up with us next week for another Sleepless Nights podcast. Or should we say, pODDcast.
PODDcast.
The best thing about being an insomniac is never having to say goodnight.
Good night.